Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Gates, and I am the Director of the Office of Financial Empowerment, and we welcome you here today. Today's presentation will be access to capital and wealth building, and we will have the presenters from the Small Business Majority, Maximiliana Zales, and Gay Schwer from Busey Bank. Gay will be speaking about lending for small businesses, and she is a specialist at Busey Bank. So I am going to welcome Gay to come on up and speak about her opportunity she has for lending at Busey Bank.
I'm just going to talk for 15 minutes or so. I'll kind of give you an overview of the SBA, why it's here, how long it's been here, what it does, how Busey Bank partners with SBA, kind of what the benefits are of using the program, and then we can spend a few minutes with questions if you've got specific things you were looking to know today. So the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is a government agency that was established in 1953. Their purpose is specifically to give access to capital to small and medium-sized companies on terms that they can't typically get. So if you're looking to buy a business, typically you would need to have 20% down or 30% down, depending on the type of business. The SBA lowers those requirements a little bit, and then the government backs those loans with an SBA guarantee. It's not 100%. Don't be fooled by the word guarantee. That makes it sound like it's really simple for us to do these things. They're relatively convoluted. There's a big fat rule book that looks about like this, that it's a conditional guarantee, and so I have to make sure I meet all of those conditions before I'm able to get that 75% guarantee from the SBA. But what it does do is it makes lenders, that's banks and non-bank lenders, more comfortable to make a loan that maybe is a little bit higher risk than they would traditionally take on. On the client side, on your side, it does give you access to better terms than you would get on a conventional loan. So it's really a win-win-win for the government, helping small businesses, which means more employment, more taxes. For us, it's a sort of helps us with our our outreach numbers and helps us to reach communities that we can't otherwise reach because of credit standards, and those can be relatively tight. Regulators on the banking side have gotten really very tight ever since the crash, and so we struggle a little bit with meeting what regulators want us to do and being able to help small and medium-sized businesses. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the SBA and lending companies work together. The SBA doesn't make loans directly, they just guarantee loans that lending institutions make. So that's how that works. There are two sets of kind of rules when you're looking at an SBA loan. There's the SBA rules. I refer to that big fat rule book that we've got to follow. And then there's the bank's lending criteria. So those things are not always, they don't usually go against each other, but they're not always exactly the same. The bank does not want to do necessarily every single credit that the SBA might say, hey, we like this. The bank might say, we've had a tough time in that industry. We've had a tough time with marinas or, single purpose properties or something along those lines. So it's a two-step approval process. The bank has to say, yes, we're good with this structure and we would approve this, and then we go to the SBA and present it to them and they say, yes, this meets our eligibility criteria, and so great, let's move on. We go through all the due diligence and then we close the loan. There are some lenders out there who are called certified lenders, and they do have to go through the two-step approval process. Busey is a preferred lender, and lots of other lending institutions are preferred lenders also, which means we've been delegated the decision-making authority for the SBA. So we can say, hey, the bank approves this and it meets the SBA's eligibility requirements, so we skip that step of having to additionally go to the SBA and get their approval. Now there's a higher level of due diligence and proof for us to make sure that we're meeting all of those rules, and so sometimes we're a little more careful with those things. But it really is all about making sure that the benefit gets to the small business client. For us, it's about making sure we keep our guarantee safe, and that means following that nice rule book that we have. So if we seem a little bit overbearing at times, that's why. That might be why. When I work with folks, I'm always very straightforward with them about how we look at a credit. So we're having a conversation, which is why I didn't bring slides or make a presentation. I really like these to be conversational. I want to make sure you get your questions answered while you're here, and just kind of have an understanding. I want you to walk away with an understanding of what it is, how it works, why we do what we do, so that you go in, relatively informed. Let's talk about the benefits, or actually, let's step back a second. There are two main SBA programs. One is called the 504. It is for fixed assets and debt refinance only. The one that Busey Bank engages in is called the 7A program. It's the one that's most heavily used. You can use the proceeds for all kinds of things: working capital, business acquisitions, equipment purchase, refinance debt. Just about anything you can think of that you need to do as a business owner, you can do under the 7A program.
7A.
It's called the 7A, correct. So the government does have their fun little terms, and by the way, if I start to use them and you don't understand what they are, please stop me, because I've been doing this a very long time and I tend to flip them out there. And I sometimes forget that you might not know what that term means, so feel free to chime in.
What is with the SA, what is the funding minimum and maximum?
For the 7A program? So the SBA's program for the 504 and for the 7A max out at $5 million. The minimums are a little bit sort of fuzzy, but I would say around, you can actually go all the way down to microloan programs, which go down to $5,000. Now, in general, every provider is not doing that whole spectrum of lending. So there is an institution here called Justine Peterson here downtown, and Justine Peterson, I think, now goes up to $150,000. Michael is nodding yes at me, so, okay. So they generally handle that, and then you would go to a bank or, come to Busey for anything that's $150,000 up to $5 million. And of course, if you call me and say, hey, I need $10,000, I'll redirect you to Justine Peterson. We want to get you to the right place. We want to get you the folks that can help you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So the 7A program, let's talk about the benefits real quickly, because I have a feeling I might ramble on here and take up my 15 minutes really quickly. See? So the benefits of doing a 7A loan are you can get longer terms. When you do a conventional bank loan, let's say, for example, you want to buy the building that your business is in. If you want to do that conventionally, you're going to have to bring probably 20% to the table, and maybe even up to 30% if it's a single purpose property, that type of thing. Under the SBA's rule is minimum of 10% down. Now remember, we talked about two sets of credit criteria. That's the SBA's criteria. The bank may say, yep, we really like the location and this all makes sense and we're okay with 10% down. Or they may say, we'd like 15, we'd like 20, we'd like 25. I think what I want you to understand is a credit decision is much more an art than it is a science. They don't fit in neat little boxes. My day would be really boring if they did. This is the reason I love to do this, is because I love to work with small business owners, and this is challenging. This is really interesting, and these are sometimes difficult to do. But if we work together, we can propose a structure for you that's really going to work. Bless you. So longer terms when you do an SBA loan, if you buy a building, you can do a term up to 25 years. Whereas if you do it conventionally, they might want to do 15, they might want to do 20. If you have a mortgage, the longer the term, the lower your payments are going to be. So same thing applies here. And when you operate a small business, it's exceedingly important to keep the payments as low as possible so that the cash flow in your business stays, more cash flow into your business to grow that, and to do what you need to do on a day-to-day basis. So a longer term is very, very important. When you do a conventional loan, those terms are typically a balloon. They're not fully amortized. The amortization is the time frame over which you figure your payments. So if I'm giving you a 20-year loan, but I'm only amortizing it over 10, your payments are clearly going to be higher. And you have to renew that thing at 10 years. It balloons. It's, again, like a mortgage, and then it balloons. And you have to figure out, will the bank renew that for me, or do I have to go somewhere else and finance this? With an SBA loan, always, they're fully amortized loans. You never have to go through that approval process. Because ballooning means you have to reprove yourself up to the bank, right? You have to go through that renewal process all over again. So you don't have to do that with an SBA loan. So lower down payments, longer terms are really the big benefits. You would probably want to work with a preferred lender. I don't know if I said that a little bit ago, but Busey Bank is a preferred lender. I did say it because we are delegated the decision-making authority. But bottom line is, as you go talk to SBA lenders, make sure you ask questions about how much experience your lender has. You could have a lender who has the same title I have and who has been doing SBA lending for 2 months. You want to know, because that big rule book can really trip you up. You really, when you're doing an SBA loan, have to find somebody who knows their stuff, who knows the SOP, that's the big fat rule book, the standard operating procedure, and really can work with you to accomplish what you need, and something that will get approved at the bank, because the reality is that's what you want, right? You want the approval, you want the funding, you want to make sure that you can take care of all of the due diligence items that the bank is going to want. So really interview your SBA lender and a conventional banker as well. I think that's exceedingly important. I think those are the very basics kind of what I would want you to know. Does anybody have questions?
I do. So, I'm about to buy a building and I'm having issues with the lending, everything you talked about.
Okay.
Does going through you make the process longer?
It could make the process a little bit longer, and it's very, very situational. And this is true with conventional lending also. And maybe we should talk and figure out if the issues you're having can be resolved possibly with an SBA program.
Okay.
It is a government program. As I said, there are a lot of rules. Sometimes that can mean it's going to take us a little bit longer to structure something for you and to get through the due diligence and get that closed. However, I don't think timing, and it depends, timing isn't always the most important issue. It's not, geez, I got to get it done yesterday. And I will tell you, that's going to be difficult no matter where you go. If you're in that kind of a rush, it's going to be difficult to get it done, SBA or conventional. What we really want is to get the financing structured the way it's going to work for your business and to get to the finish line. If you're going to spend a bunch of time, goofing around trying to figure out, does this work, does the other thing work, do we structure it this way? It doesn't matter if you don't get there, right? So I tell people in general, it does take a little bit longer to do an SBA loan. But a huge portion of that is how well do you work with your lender and how well do you communicate with one another? How quickly can you get information back to them? Because there's an SBA application that has to be done. I am almost always holding hands when we're walking through that because they don't make those forms simple. And so that's my role.
Did you bring business cards?
I have business cards and I have a couple little pieces of, just to kind of give you the basics of what we're talking about. My contact information is on here also. So you probably don't need a business card in addition to this if you don't want to take one, but absolutely. So, and I am always happy to consultatively work with folks. So call me if you have questions, you want to air something out, you want to talk about something that I said today that we didn't get to, explain more fully. Are we really finished? Wow. Wow. Great, that was so quick. I'll make sure I pass these around so you guys all have one, and feel free to call me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. My name is Maximiliana Sales, and I am the Missouri Outreach Manager for Small Business Majority. I'm happy to say that I see some familiar faces in the audience, so I'm happy to see some people that I've seen before, and would like to welcome everybody to today's presentation. Okay, so to get started, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things today. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about access to capital, because as small business owners wanting to start our businesses, that's the first thing that we need. We need money to get started, right? And then we're also going to be talking about the importance of credit when you are a small business owner. And then finally, we're going to talk about what it is that you can do to make things better, not just for yourself personally as a small business owner, but for other women that are in this journey right along with you. So when it comes to access to capital, we're going to go over what are some of the key questions that we need to know. And what does the funding landscape look like? We've already had BC Bank talk about some of the information about SBA-backed loans. And we're also, in this portion, going to look at crowdfunding as an alternative source of income, or source of capital, I should say. And then we'll talk about the Small Business Owners Bill of Rights. So to start off with, I wanted to share with you that Small Business Majority, we are a national nonprofit organization, but we are not a membership organization. So, for example, you may have a local chamber where you have to pay a fee to become a member. Small Business Majority does not have a paid membership, but what we have is a network across the country of small business owners like yourselves that will participate in our extensive research and polling that we do at various times throughout the years on various issues where legislation is being proposed that would either end up affecting small business owners positively or negatively depending on the issue. And one of the things that we've seen from our scientific polling is that 90% of small business owners say that the availability of credit, of capital, is a problem. Raise your hand if you agree. Okay. So we know that today women own nearly 10 million firms across the United States that generate 1.4 trillion in revenue. And when you're thinking about, okay, how can I make sure that I'm setting myself up for financial success, that I'm setting myself up and my family, and that I have a legacy to leave my children? One of the two ways to build access or to have assets and to build your wealth is by building your assets. And the first type of asset, the most common one, is by home ownership, right? When you buy a home, the idea is that as time goes on, that the value of your home is going to increase. The second thing is by starting a business. So small business is a way to build your family's wealth. But we know that especially in today's economy, women, primarily African American women, are leading the charge in small business creation. And we know that women face specific barriers that generally men, for example, don't face. So normally they're starting off being a smaller size business, which means that they typically will start off with less capital. They are facing lower approval rates when it comes to bank loans when it comes to loans from banks. And if they do end up getting approved for a loan, they're also ending up with a smaller sized loan compared to their male counterparts. So we know that 1 in 3 women-owned firms is owned by a woman of color, and we know that women and minority-owned firms are less likely to receive bank lending due to various issues, including when you're thinking about the increasing number of immigrants or other minority communities. There could be cultural barriers, there could be language barriers, and those are issues that women are facing as well, as well as being also more vulnerable to predatory lending. But the good news is that in today's day and age, and thanks in great part to technology, there are more funding options than ever before to help you start and grow your business. And so here on the screen, you see some of those options. Now, obviously, for time's sake, we are not going to be able to get into every single option and discuss it at length. But we will go over some of these more in depth. I'm sure that you yourselves have probably used your own savings, or maybe you've relied upon family and friends. Maybe you have, hopefully not, cashed in your retirement. Or maybe you've used your credit cards to get your businesses started. So we're going to look at some of these various options and review some of these more in depth, like I shared. So the first thing that is important to know is, what are the questions that I need to be able to answer when it comes to seeking funding? Because that's very important. So these are questions that more than likely, if you have done a business plan, and not up here, right? But like actually have done your business plan on paper and you have forecasted your business finances, these questions you should be able to find the answers from within your business plan. So the questions that you need to consider, first and foremost, you need to know what it is that you need the money for. What is the money going to go for? You need to know how much money you are going to need, and also how long, what are the terms of this loan that you're seeking? How long is it going to take you to pay this money back? Right? You have to understand what is your current financial shape for your business, how long you've been in business, how much collateral, if any, do you have to put up for the loan? And then, how quickly do you need the money? Yes, ma'am.
Are the attendees going to be able to get a copy of the slides?
If they signed up on the sign-in sheets, yes. So the question was, will you be able to receive a copy of the slides? Yes, provided I can read your handwriting, I will be sending those out, yes. Okay, so the next question, are you seeking debt or equity financing? So debt financing is when you're taking money out and you're going to pay that money back plus interest, and equity financing, think Shark Tank. Yes, I will give you $5 million, but I'm going to take half of your company, okay? So when you're thinking about those questions and you're getting ready to go see a lender, lenders often use what are called the 5 C's of credit to determine your credit worthiness. And that basically means what is your character, which is just taking a look at your credit history, including whether you're making your payments on time or not. Looking at your cash flow. You're asking for this amount of money. Does the current cash flow for your business actually support you paying that amount back? And capital, how much of your own money have you invested in your business? In other words, do you have skin in the game? If you're not investing in your own business, why would anybody else invest in your business as well? And then collateral, property or assets that can be pledged as security. And then they will also take a look at any other outside conditions that could affect your industry. Okay? So what we'll cover in this presentation is, in regards to the funding landscape, is we will talk more in depth about CDFIs. We'll talk about some SBA-backed loans, community banks and credit unions, and we will also talk about alternative online lenders. Has anybody heard of Justin Peterson? Yes, the International Institute? No? How about Kingdom House? Yes? Okay, so these three, if you Google CDFIs St. Louis, you're going to find, I believe there's 5 in the area. But you can't just say, oh, this is the closest one, I'm going to go visit this one, because different CDFIs will provide lending for different things. And not all of them will provide lending for small business, right? Some of them may help you get a mortgage to purchase a home, but you have to know which CDFI you're going to. Justin Peterson does traditionally do lending for small businesses, and they do provide that technical assistance. The International Institute for our immigrant community, they in particular work with the immigrant community, and they also have a CDFI within their offices, just to mention 2 of them. So the community development financial institutions offer loans for small business owners that are typically not, as the term is, bankable. They're typically not able to get a loan from a traditional bank in the traditional manner. And these loans may be used for a different variety of purposes. CDFIs, like Justin Peterson, for example, are dedicated to helping underserved and underrepresented communities. They're typically located in the communities where they serve and they provide the services. And they do offer some microloan programs, meaning that they will offer you loans for smaller amounts, typically under $50,000. And some of the loans that they will offer you are meant to be not necessarily a huge loan to, buy equipment for your business, but they have other loans that are available to help you begin to restore your credit and to help you begin to reestablish credit if it's necessary. They're not, the great thing about CDFIs is that they're not just going to give you the money and say, Jackie, go forth and prosper, but they're actually going to say, Jackie, let's sit down, let's create a budget, let's look at your debt, let's look at your credit score, let's see what things you need to address, and they will help you make a plan and be able to develop a financial plan to get out of debt, improve your credit score, basically to take the steps that are necessary so that you can go to a bank like BC Bank and be bankable at that point and be able to obtain traditional lending through a bank. So when you start off working with Justin Peterson, I like to, when I meet with small business owners, and I oftentimes will meet with small business owners one-on-one just to find out, where are you in your journey, right? What is it that you need right now? What kind of resources are you seeking out? I will tell people, just a suggestion, make an appointment with one of the counselors from Justin Peterson and get a financial checkup. Okay, so you know where you're at and where you stand financially. If you don't know, or if you have no idea, or if your finances are in a mess for whatever reason, they will help you set up that plan to get to where you want to be. So these are CDFIs, and there are different pros and cons. So for example, they do offer competitive rates. They're great. They're a great resource if you're not able to obtain a traditional bank loan. And like I mentioned, they offer you that educational support, that technical assistance. On the other hand, they're offering you smaller loans. And so, for example, if you want to start a construction company and you need $500,000 for equipment, you may not be able to get that from a CDFI. And you will sometimes need personal collateral that is required in order for you to obtain a loan. Now, I want to go over, not to repeat what has already been shared by Busey Bank, but the SBA is another option that we have available, or that you have available as a small business owner. And it's important to differentiate and to understand. And the SBA, they're not a lender, right? But for example, and I'm going to keep on picking on Jackie because she's sitting right here in front of me, and because Jackie and I go way back to a couple of months ago when she came to another event where I was presenting. So Jackie can come to me and say, Maximiliana, I really need this loan, and I want to see if I can get an SBA loan. So how does it work? So I would tell her, well, the way that it's going to work is that the SBA is basically going to guarantee to the bank that they will have their money repaid, okay? But that doesn't mean, so if something happens, Jackie, and you default on your loan, the bank is still going to get their money, right? Because that's what the SBA is, the guarantor. They're guaranteeing that that loan is going to be paid back. But that doesn't mean that you get off scot-free, because then you will still have the bank and the SBA coming after you for that loan that you took out. So they're there as a third party to encourage banks to be able to take that extra risk and be able to work and offer lending for populations that are a bit riskier borrowers and not necessarily able to obtain the traditional bank loans. And there are different types of uses. What I would recommend is make sure that you get the flyer, get the contact information, and if you have specific questions in regards to the SBA loans, then that's what I suggest that you do. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you, what about the amount that they're giving? Is it like the same as Justin Peterson?
No, it would be more.
It would be more, okay.
Yes,
That's what I was
yes.
wondering. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was her question again?
What is the amount? Is it comparable to what a CDFI would provide as far as loan amounts? So my answer was that it would be more, yes. Yes, so again, you don't have to keep taking pictures of the slides unless you really want to, but like I said, we have some additional resources available for you that I will be sharing out through email. But for example, you can find on challenge.gov, Innovate Her Challenge, awards for women entrepreneurs, women's business centers, which we have one here in St. Louis. It's the Grace Hill Women's Business Development Center. And then, of course, there are other sources if you decide that you want to become a woman-owned entrepreneur, so you want to have that designation. I also have a contact and a referral that can help you with that, if getting that minority-owned or that women-owned certification is something that you would like to do. And at the end of our presentation, I will be sharing my contact information, but definitely as we're going through the presentations, if you have any specific questions that you're sitting there thinking, okay, I need to follow up and get more information about this specifically, just jot yourself a note and then be sure to send me an email and I'll be happy to make the connections and the referrals. Yes, ma'am.
You talked about women-owned certification.
Yes.
Is that a particularly arduous process, and does it help you do my other things?
So when you have, for example, like the city of St. Louis, right? There's a certain amount that is designated of business that they have to do with women and minority-owned businesses. When you have that designation, then you basically are eligible to jump in that pool and be considered for selection. So that you won't be considered for selection with the city, as an example, unless you have that certification. It's an application that you have to fill out, and there is documentation that you have to submit. And I have another contact that can help. Even if you, I know, we're here celebrating Women in Small Business Month, but if you know of a man that wants to go through that process, I have resources for that as well. So I'm more than happy to connect you. Just shoot me an email and let me know. I want to find out more specific information about this, and let me know. Okay?
Could you
Yes, ma'am.
explain that last part, the leader match?
Oh, lender match?
Lender match,
So-
lender, I'm sorry.
Right, so if you go to sba.gov/lender match, it's just going to be, it provide you local resources. So you'll be able to find a resource local to you that is an SBA approved lender. Okay? So one of the things that is important to be aware of is the increasing presence of online lenders, okay? Like I mentioned, some things, technology could be used for good, it could also be used for evil, if you will. And so one of the things that we share this information as the warning to be very mindful that as you're starting and setting up your businesses, if you haven't already, you could end up, and you will be ending up, being bombarded with solicitations of online lenders. Now, one of the things that you need to know is that they're very highly unregulated, meaning there's nobody looking over them to make certain that they're doing things in a certain way, okay? And so what I would warn you is, I'll share a quick story. And we have a video for it, and it's on another website, and I'll point it out when we get to that slide. But there was a woman in New York who separated from her corporate job, took that money, her severance pay, and started a business. And everything was going well. She started a flower shop. Everything was going well until she had a flood in her basement. Then she needed some money, and she did what any one of us would do. She went to her local bank that she had been banking with her whole entire adult life, but she was not able to obtain a business loan from them. And so then she went to her computer, found one of these online lenders, did the application, and she, like the next day or 2 days later, had the money deposited in her account. It's important when you're a small business owner, you're proposing to start a business, that you focus on growing your mindset as well as your business. And so in doing that, she attended a networking event, a presentation, something similar to this in her area, where she heard somebody speaking about the dangers of online lending. And she realized that everything that was being shared, she had just subjected herself to, basically. So through meeting one person and an introduction and a referral, she ended up meeting with her local CDFI. And the local CDFI was able to provide her I believe it was like around a $40,000 loan so that she could pay off what she owed. And her payments went down from $11,000, and this is not a mistake, $11,000 a month to like $800 a month.
She borrowed less money or more money?
She borrowed money to pay off the
What
loan.
I'm asking though, was the online lender amount, was that less or more than 40, do you know?
It was, well, I'm not sure at this point, but I know, so basically, the interest charges were something like 300,000, or 300%, I should say. And and you can see her own, you can see the video, and you can hear in her own words tell the story, but it's definitely something that you have to be aware of, okay? So proceed with caution. I don't recommend it, just because you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and you're setting your business up for success. So we'll talk about women and crowdfunding. Does everybody know what crowdfunding is? Or I should ask, does anybody not know what crowdfunding is? Okay, so crowdfunding is when you go online, because you're doing this on the computer, on the internet, you go online, and you basically use one of the different platforms. Help me out, somebody, because now my mind went blank. Like Kickstarter is one of them. What's another one?
Indiegogo.
GoFundMe.
Indiegogo used to be real popular.
So there are online platforms where basically, I'll give you a local example. My son's teacher last year, she's a preschool teacher, but she's also a local artist. So she's in a band. She does performances and gives concerts around the area, and she's a very artistic person, okay? So she decided that she wanted to write a book. Actually, she wrote a song, and the song was a song about snakes. And she illustrated a book to go along with the song. And so and I don't remember, I think it was Kickstarter, but she went ahead and she put it online. She did a video of herself sharing, my name is Stephanie Plant, and I'm a Montessori teacher, and I love music, and I love kids, and I love snakes. And I put this song together, and I did the book. And then she shared the different, on the crowdfunding campaign, she shared, I want to get my book published. I need to raise $3,500. And if you give a pledge of, for example, $25, you will get a copy of the song. If you give $35, you'll get a copy of the song and a copy of my book. And then she did a t-shirt, and then you could get multiple copies. And I think the last or the highest price that contribution was something like $500 for a private concert in the St. Louis area at a mutually agreed upon location. And so she sent it out, right? But as we're seeing, when you're creating an online campaign, you need to have somebody following you already, right? You need to have a following, because otherwise who is going to see this? So she was a teacher. She had been a teacher for many years. So she sent it out to her students, to the classroom. My son would always come home singing the Slithering Snake song, and I knew that I would support her because I wanted the book for him. And so literally, like in a week, she had over $5,000 raised. And that money went for her to actually be able to publish her book and get it out. And this is just one example of how crowdfunding online works. If that is something, especially if you have a product and if you're more like an artistic type person or a business, if that's something that you're interested in doing, definitely, once again, go to your trusty friend Google. And I say that because there are different types of platforms that are more so geared towards different things. So with crowdfunding, you are able to access capital, right? It's a very untraditional way of getting, like, she was hoping for $3,500 and in a week she had $5,000. It also helps you to do marketing and engage with your customers. And then because it's technology, you can see how many people saw my page, how many people clicked here, how many responses did I get. And so it is time intensive because she had to create that video. She had to create the product, but then she had to create the video. She had to take pictures. She had to upload everything. You do need to be tech savvy, right? So if you don't even have a Facebook account, for example, for your business, which in most cases I would say everybody should have a free Facebook page for your business. Don't spam people on your personal page. And that has the limit of 5,000. But if you set up your Facebook business page, there's no limit, right? And people can go in and it's free. You can get marketing, free publicity. You can share out events. People can leave your reviews and build your business in that way. But back to the crowdfunding. You do need a good network. You have to make sure that you are reading the fine print, because some platforms, as you see here, they have all or nothing. So you either, if you say that you're seeking to raise $3,500, if you only raise $2,500, you won't get the $2,500. You have to meet your goal. They don't keep the money. It goes back minus some administrative fees. But you need to make sure that you know what you're doing if you're going to engage in this. But it is a very popular option, and like I mentioned, it's not for everybody. It's going to be dependent on your business. So there are different kinds of crowdfunding platforms. Some of them you're just asking for a donation. Some of them you're giving a reward. Like in the case that I shared, my son got the actual book plus the song plus a coloring book, and then in others you are giving equity. So that's what they're like, that's what they're receiving, that's what the investors are receiving. And of course there is a timeline that you have to follow and you have to be mindful and aware of. But most importantly, here's the questions. Is crowdfunding right for your business? Do you have a social media presence? Do you have a following online? Are you looking to engage an audience of potential customers? Are you able to explain clearly and compellingly why backers should support you? And why now? Like, why now, right at this moment? Because usually there will be a timeline, right? Like, you're not going to run these campaigns indefinitely. You're going to have a certain amount of time, so you need to have a compelling reason to say, now, I need your support right now. Okay? So some of the factors for success that you need to keep in mind is the strength of your network. If you have a team, because if you can't do it all in isolation, right? So if you don't have somebody that can help you with social media or can help you create a video or can help take some pictures, you need to have content, because otherwise how are you going to show that your audience should be compelled to support you now? And a strong marketing campaign and incentives. One of the other things that I wanted to share, and again, there are some grants available for women-owned businesses. You have to look for them, but there are some out there. You would have to do the research and look specifically to see what is available. Okay. Now, another thing that comes up frequently when I do these presentations on access to capital is people asking about angel investors, or again, going back to Shark Tank. But what's important to note is that if a person is a millionaire and they're going to invest into somebody else's business, they're not going to invest into a business that's going to make them maybe $20,000 a year, maybe $50,000, maybe $100,000. They're going to be looking at the next Amazon or at the next, Uber or whatever the case may be. They're going to be looking at the technology. They're going to be looking for something that is, single use. It needs to be used even internationally, not just nationwide, but internationally, because they're going to be literally looking at getting their most bang for their buck, right? So not every single business, think of STEM-related things, that's going to be more so where they're going to want to go. So if your business is, well, I'm going to open up a nail shop, or if your business is, I want to open a Puerto Rican restaurant and sell some pasteles, I don't know why I just had a craving for Puerto Rican food. And to my knowledge, I don't think there's any Puerto Rican restaurants in the city of St. Louis. I'm going to have to Google that. But if you're going to open that up, please let me know. However, things like that, this is not for you, right? So there's different types of lending, but you have to know your business and you have to know who is most likely to lend to me as a small business owner within this field and industry that I am working in. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next presentation. Like I mentioned, if you see me going over some slides or just skipping over them, it's just because of time. I definitely want to make sure that we get through this part and through the next part as well. And we're going to talk about how to build your business credit. Many times when I'm doing these presentations, people that come and sit in and they're listening to me share about, for example, access to capital, depending on where you're at, right? There are some people that have had the privilege of more education, more exposure, and they have a better understanding of finances. I spoke with somebody who said, oh yeah, we've been talking about that, in my household ever since I was like in 5th grade. On the other hand, you could have a background similar to mine. I'm an immigrant. My parents worked too. My dad sometimes worked 3 jobs. We didn't talk about money around our kitchen table, and it's something that I had to learn about finances as I was growing up, and more so in my adult years. But we're going to talk right now about how to build your business credit. But before we get into that, we're going to look at the cost of bad credit. And it's important to understand and to know that based on your credit score, which is the column all the way on the far left, based on your credit score, when you're seeking out a loan, that's going to determine the amount of interest that you're going to pay. You can see on the far right, the money saved over 30 years. If you took out a loan and you repaid it back over 30 years, let's say it's a home loan, $250,000. If your credit score is 720 and above, over those 30 years, you saved $216,389. But if you purchased that same home and you had a lower credit score, let's say in the 500s, you did not save anything. And you actually you took out a loan for $250,000 and you ended up paying $750,211. So just like I said a few minutes ago, bring somebody with you. If you need financial literacy, education, or if you want to have a better understanding for yourself personally, reach out. I'll be more than happy to connect you. But bring somebody with you, or share. You know how they say the best way to know something or to learn something is to teach it to somebody? Make sure that you're teaching it to somebody, especially somebody within our Black and brown communities, because we lack this information. We didn't grow up necessarily talking and discussing it around the kitchen table, right? So this is why it's important to understand credit. Now, again, some personal best practices when it comes to, or best practices I should say, when it comes to personal credit is you have to know where to start, right? You have to know where you're starting. So you need to know your personal credit score. You need to know how much debt you have. You need to have a budget, a written budget, so you know, okay, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. I've seen some videos on YouTube where people, when they started keeping written track of their money, they like automatically got 200, 400, 600 or more raise per se, just because they realized by writing everything down that the scan was literally costing them that much money on a monthly basis. And it wasn't until they started to put things down on paper that they were able to see in black and white, whoa, I need to stop going through Quick Trip and getting all of this junk food, right? So along with having your budget and a debt repayment plan, it's important, and it's just a suggested best practice, that you have 3 to 6 months of expenses. That doesn't mean 3 to 6 months of your income. Let's say I'm making $4,000 a month, but my expenses are $2,000. So then it would be $2,000 times the 3 to 6 months for my personal emergency fund, because emergencies will happen, right? And then make sure that you're checking your personal credit score once a year, at least once a year. Make sure that you are you're disputing anything that it does not belong to you, or there. I'm not going to get into a presentation on identity theft and so on and so forth, but we hear about it more and more, so you have to know what is in your personal credit score. And the reason why you have to know what is in your personal credit report is because when you first start out and you are establishing your business is not going to have credit. How long does it take to build business credit?
Well, so personal, when you're a small business, you are your business, right? And we view it that way, you're one and the same. So your personal credit score is very important to us. About a 640 is about the lowest credit score that we'll do.
640.
Right.
Minimum 640. But let me go back. You could have a 640 and you could get a loan, but it's going to cost you, right? More than if your credit was 700 or above. Okay?
So what if your credit score is just not that good, and you, like you said, you're a startup and you're just trying to get your ideal out there and, start your business.
So what do?
Are people willing to help?
Yes, people are willing to help you, because if you would recall what I was sharing, what I was sharing before when I was saying that I always encourage people, and Justin Peterson is just one of many, right? But it's known here in the St. Louis area. But I would say if you have not done so, I would definitely encourage you to call Justin Peterson, schedule an appointment with a business counselor, and basically do what I like to call a financial checkup. Even if you're not needing money right now, or if you're not needing a loan right now, because when you need it, you want to be able to obtain it, right? So think of this financial checkup like a wellness visit. You need to go in, you need to see, okay, let me put all my financial cards on the table, have this counselor help me understand where am I, what's going on, and what is it that I need to do. And then you can have a plan, and then you can have your budget, you can have your debt repayment plan if needed. You can also, as I mentioned before, possibly obtain some of the products and services that Justin Peterson offers to help you rebuild and reestablish that good credit score that you're looking for. So is it going to happen overnight? No. But
That's why you have to start early.
Exactly.
Right now.
Today, you leave and you call and you set that appointment, right? So that's what you do, because And you look for opportunities, and you look to see what you can do that is either free or low cost as you're building and branding your business. And again, if you Instagram is free, a Facebook business page is free. So there are things that you can do that word of mouth is free, that are going to be low cost as far as beginning to market and brand your business. But you definitely want to start on the right footing, and that is keeping your business financials separate from your personal financials, and they'll help you with all of that. Okay? So again, this is so important because no matter where you go, if you're looking for lending and you're looking for lending for your business, as was just shared, you are your business. So Jackie, you are your business. Nobody's going to look at a non-existent credit score for a business that is just starting up. They're going to look at, well, what has Jackie been doing with her money?
At what point do they
What is her credit score? Okay? And so getting into your business credit, remember, I'm going to share these slides with you, so we won't necessarily be able to go through every single one, but your business, how long does it take for a business to set up? First of all, to answer your question, first of all, in order for your business to be able to show a business credit score, you need to be able to show business financials, right? Meaning the business has to exist legally, not a hobby or a side hustle, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But then how do you build your personal credit score? You have debt, you pay it back. You have debt, you pay it back. So it's going to be the same thing with your business. So you need to start out by having your business banking account, a credit card possibly tied to that. You need to be able to begin to show that your business is incurring debt and paying it on time, right? So, and that's going to take time. It's not going to happen just automatically, or just because you filed your LLC that you automatically have a credit score. Because again, even with personal credit, unfortunately, that's just the way that things are, right? So somebody like Dave Ramsey, for example, that has a suggested personal financial plan, he would tell you to do everything with cash. And eventually, and that's what he teaches, and many people follow him, and that's great. But eventually you won't have a credit score because there won't be any credit usage tied to that way of handling your finances. Yes, ma'am.
So just quick example, my son just turned 18 in June. We got him a credit card because he was working, and what he does is he puts his gas on his credit card, and he pays that every month. And that is to establish credit for him. If you don't use it, you won't have it.
But it's the same thing with your business.
Absolutely.
Right? So just because you have a business, so I was at an event on Friday and somebody came to my table and said, my parents have had a business, that business supported our family, I'm taking over the business, and the business is still not bankable. We're still not able to get a loan. That business never incurred any debt and paid it off, and then incurred more debt and paid it off. That's what it's going to take to establish your business credit score.
I get something sometime guns and, I don't know if it's guns.
Yes,
and
we're gonna go over
guns,
that.
number or something.
Yes, so like I was saying, your business will have a credit score. If her son had not started or taken out this credit card, then he could be 20, 25, 30, ready to buy a house and has never incurred any debt and shown that he is responsible in paying it off, then he wouldn't have a credit score, right? Because there would be no, those transactions would not show up for his file. So your business will have a credit score, just like your personal credit score, as long as you are being intentional about setting that up and using it. And there's a survey. Almost 3 in 4 small business owners don't know their business credit score, and almost 60% don't know how to find it.
And I want to say nav.com
Yes.
is really good. The one that she have up there, nav.com.
nav.com.
Helping you, figure it out. Well, they have your credit score for your business.
I got you.
Yeah.
So we're I'm not gonna speed talk. I am gonna speed through some of these click, 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 but because I really want to get to the next part as well. But as we've been talking already, and you have the understanding, your business credit score, if your business has a business credit score, is going to be looked at when you're seeking funding, but primarily, you are always the business. If you don't work, your business doesn't exist, right? So your personal credit is always going to be looked at. However, when you're looking at a further level, like for example, purchasing a building or expanding nationwide, and your business is farther along and you have that type of product or service that you need that additional funding, your business credit is important because it's going to help you secure a lower interest rate like we just saw, right? It's going to allow you to receive better trades, better terms with suppliers. It's just going to help in any financial related transactions, it will help you to have a better business score. So women's ability to access credit is critical. 14.5% of women-owned businesses have sales above 500,000 compared to 24% of male-owned businesses. Here we see the average women's credit score. Consumer credit score is 689, and the average business credit score for businesses owned by women was 34. So this just goes to tell you, in case you didn't know, there are different bureau scores and reports. Business reports, as it says here, are sometimes more prone to errors. Payments count differently. And there are different scores and different scales, and these are three that you can just, if you want to jot them down, you can jot down the names and then begin to Google credit scores along with these so that you can see what these look like in comparison to your personal credit reports, okay? So here is the sample from Experian for a business credit score. DMB Paydex, and FICO. And as we were talking about, how are they determined? It's going to be your payment history, the frequency. Hopefully there's no collections, liens, judgments against you. Monetary, how much of your available credit is in use. That's similar to your personal credit. And then remember that I shared that I would be sending out these slides, but here's how to start building business credit. You establish your business, you obtain your employer identification number, you open up a business credit card, you begin to use it, you pay it on time, all the time, like it says, right? And this is also important. Remember, I was talking about keeping your finances separate. So your personal money is your personal money, your business money is your business money. So just like with personal credit, you make your payments on time, you keep your debt to income ratio in check, use your business credit accounts wisely, and make sure that you are regularly checking those reports for you, not just the personal, but also the business ones. Okay? And this is the resource that I wanted to share with you. Venturize.org is an online platform that is operated by Small Business Majority. On this website, you will find, if you go under, I think it's like, I don't recall if it says testimonials or videos, but you can go on this website and you can see the video of the New York, or as they say, Nuyorican, that's Puerto Rican from New York, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Latina business owner who had opened up the flower shop, who had the flooding in the basement, ended up getting lending from an online lender and the problems. You can go on this website and see the video. We have really great information. It's all available in English and Spanish. And we also have a resource map, which basically what you would do is you would put in your zip code and you would be able to find a list of our vetted partners, which basically means, okay, who has Maximiliana been working with here in the St. Louis area that we're willing to recommend for different things. So as I continue on my journey with Small Business Majority and continue to meet new partners, et cetera, we will continue to put additional referral resources up there. But definitely encourage you to take a look at this. Before we jump on to our next and final presentation, because I wish this day was longer, but we've only got 30 minutes left and I want to make sure that I get to it. Does anybody have any questions either for me, the SBA, or Busey Bank that you would like to ask in particular about business credit? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any suggestions on business credit cards for first-time businesses?
I don't personally handle that, so I don't have any, but I would probably default to what you said, use your good friend Google.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would do, unless you know of something.
I mean, I don't think there's necessarily one better than other. I mean, look for a good rate. And I think the key is what she said in terms of once you establish that credit line, just make sure that you're punctual in making those payments for your business. American Express, in particular, in terms of businesses, their actual credit requirements tend to be a little bit more liberal, I think, than just maybe some of the others. But I'm pretty sure there are others out there, that work with
Capital One also has a really good business program, and there's one called firstprogress.com. They actually help with individual and business.
And what I did with Capital One, I started off with a secured card, and then I graduated from the secured to an unsecured, and then I just went on ahead and was like, well, I need a business credit card, and so they gave me the same amount of what my personal limit is on my business credit card.
Okay.
So it's just trying to be responsible with all of that, because you're like, ooh, money, but.
Yes, thank you for sharing your experience. So just to recap what she said, she started off with Capital One with a secured credit card, graduated to an unsecured credit card, and then went ahead and opened up a personal credit card. But if you would remember that slide where I had the questions that you're needing to ask yourself, it's the same thing with the credit card. Well, why do I need a business credit card? What am I going to put on the business credit card, and is my business generating enough income for me to pay that off? Just like you said, just being responsible. Yes, ma'am.
Real quickly, how do you establish, I mean, I have some business credit cards that have my business name on there. I'm not sure if it's actually linked through an EIN for my business. Is that something that definitely needs to be?
Yes, otherwise it's not a business credit card.
So what do you need?
You need to talk to.
For me, if I'm doing a refinance of credit card debt, it has to be in business name.
Okay.
That's a requirement of the program.
Okay, so you can ask more questions at the end. Thanks for pointing that out, and thanks for asking that question, but we will keep it moving for now. And make sure you'll come back to the next series, because we'll have more time to go over more things, more in depth. Because usually this presentation would take an hour. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move it on. So the next presentation that we're going to look over, the next topic is Women-Owned Small Businesses and Advocacy 101. And I want you all, as women leaders, as small business owners that are here today, I don't know if you know this or not, but today there are more women running for office than at any other time in history. I was reading an article this morning at like 5 in the morning when I woke up that was saying that 2018 is being considered the year of the woman, okay? And sometimes we may think, oh, well, I'm just a woman, or I'm just, a small business owner. What do I have to do, with politics? Maybe you're registered to vote. Maybe you're not registered to vote. I don't know your personal circumstances. But I want you to think and begin to think, regardless of whatever stage you are at in business, I want you to think of yourself as an advocate for small business owners. Because first and foremost, you should be advocating for yourself. And when you advocate for yourself, you're going to be advocating for your fellow sisters in the communities in which you live that are also women small business owners. So let's jump into advocacy. What has advocacy for women small business owners accomplished? Has anybody used the services of Grace Hill Women's Business Development Center? Yes. Raise your hands high. Okay, so if somebody had not advocated for women to have their own business development centers, Grace Hill and other women's business development centers like it across the country would not exist. And this was passed, Women's Business Centers Improvements Act of 2018. We have paid leave in legislation in California. This Women's Business Centers Improvements Act of 2018 is currently being considered in the Senate, and it would provide additional funding and flexibility for these types of programs. And California was the first to implement a paid leave system, and last year expanded the program to include small business employees. Okay? One thing that I want to share with you, in case you did or did not know, is that small business owners across the country, like yourselves, are the ones that are responsible for the majority of job creation in this country. So almost half of all net new jobs are coming from small businesses. And when I'm talking small businesses, I'm talking about small mom and pop shops or businesses that may have 10 or less employees. I'm not talking about a corporation that has 100 employees and is considered a small business. That's not a small business. True small businesses are going to be the owner and, like I mentioned, 10 or less employees. So the work that you are doing and the work that you aspire to do and where you aspire to be is very important in the communities in which your businesses are established, because you're hiring locally, you're giving back to your community, you're supporting your community. Your communities need you. And so this is the reason why we're talking about advocacy. So these are some of the questions that we will look over and review. And basically, advocacy is the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal. So one of the things that Small Business Majority does, you can look on our website, and I feel like every other day I'm getting an update that our founder is testifying in Congress. When he's testifying on Congress, he's speaking up on your behalf. Because if you recall, when we started, I was mentioning that you don't have to pay us to be a part of the work that we do, right? But if you sign up for our newsletter, if we send out a questionnaire, or we're doing a poll or a survey, I don't know, for example, how many times I've been saying, like Lorena was sharing, that here, even in St. Louis, the Latino community is not being served. We need more Spanish-speaking services. Side note, just be mindful that in like 20 years or so, 1 in 4 Americans is going to be a person of Latino descent, right? 1 in 4. So you keep that in mind for your businesses, keep that in mind, and then advocate for your needs, because we've all seen politicians on TV. Small businesses need this or that. Small businesses this. But did they come and ask you, right? Are the tax cuts or tax increases that they're proposing, are they really going to benefit you? So these are the types of things that we want to encourage you to think about as you begin or continue wherever you are in your journey as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner, to basically make sure that your representatives know how the things that they're proposing are going to affect you. Because if they affect you, they'll affect whether you can hire more people or less people, whether you stay in this neighborhood or have to move over here to continue to run and maintain your business, or whether you have to end up shutting your business down, right? So why are small business voices important? Because Pew Research Center says that you are viewed positively. So your opinions matter, and you're viewed positively by 71% of the public. So look at this. You're more trustworthy than churches, academic institutions, and large corporations, right? So I already went over the job creators. We've already talked about being diverse, even racially, politically, across all areas. This is who you are a part of. You are one of 28 million small businesses in the country. You are one of 22 million self-employed and growing. You are one of 5.8 million minority-owned businesses. And you may be an immigrant like me, having started 28% of all new businesses, despite accounting in 2011 for 12.9% of the population. So when you're thinking about advocacy, there's an issue, right? There's a tax proposal, or there's a zoning proposal or something. There's an issue. You identify the issue. Is it federal, state, local? You do some research. You set your goals. Do you want your representative to vote for this or against it? You get to know your target audience. And then you identify, what can I do? Can I write a letter? Can I make a phone call? Can I participate in media? And then you craft your message and you explain why. Why do you want them to do what you're asking them to do? And make sure that you are adding, as a constituent, that you are adding your small business perspective. Okay? Other advocacy strategies that you can take, it's anything from voting, canvassing, letter writing, phone calls, hosting constituent meetings, attending local community events, forums, coalition building, writing your letters to the editors in your local paper, and working with policymakers. And just like we were saying in regards to the lending and in regards to acquiring funds, it would be good for you, before you even think about, let me send in this business credit card application to my bank, it would be good for you to sit down and meet with a local banker so that you introduce yourself. So you say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, I'm looking to establish a long-term relationship. And this is what these are going to be my next steps coming up. What do you recommend? What should I be doing that I don't know to be doing right now? It's the same thing with working with your policymakers. Do your homework, know how they voted on similar issues, support existing work. And I wanted to bring this up as I click here, because there are areas that we know, because we've seen today, are very important for women entrepreneurs. And these areas are access to capital, or predatory lending, which, as I mentioned, is highly unregulated, right? Retirement security, because women spend more time out of the workforce, either caring for children, caring for elderly parents. We're not necessarily always in jobs that we have a pension or we have a retirement account. Traditionally, sometimes our jobs are lower paid compared to males. So I don't know if you knew this, but in California, they're proposing, I believe they may have passed it, a statewide retirement plan, right? So that regardless of what job you work or where you're at, you have an opportunity to deposit funds into a statewide plan. right? Or other things such as tax policy, healthcare, the Affordable Care Act. On Saturday, I was doing a presentation on the Affordable Care Act, and I shared that almost half of all enrollees in the Affordable Care Act are small business owners, their families, and their employees. So if the Affordable Care Act goes away, almost half of enrollees that are small business owners, the backbones to our communities, that provide and are the number one producers of jobs, what will happen? So I know it's a lot to think about. You already have a lot to think about as you're trying to start your business or grow your business. But this is just one, we're not even going to get into immigration reform or paid family leave and child elder care. But this is one of the ways in which Small Business Majority encourages you to get involved with us, and that is to become a spokesperson. So that basically, what that means is that you would shoot me an email and say, Maximiliana, I would like to learn more about becoming a spokesperson. I've had this issue and this is how I was affected, and if I can write a letter to the editor, if I can do something to bring this to light and share my point of view as a small business owner, I would be happy to become a part of the Small Business Majority Network and partner with you guys in this way. And so what we would do, if we are able to connect you with local reporters, then we will do that. Because if there is an issue, we don't want it to be, well, Small Business Majority says, because who are we? We're not the business owners, right? You are. So we want to have and elevate that, because remember, you're more trustworthy than churches and educational institutions and nonprofit organizations, okay? So we want to make sure that we are elevating your voice. We can help facilitate meetings with local and national lawmakers. We can help you draft and write. We actually have a communications team in our DC office. So even if you said, well, Maximiliana, this happened, but I don't know how to put this in a story format, or I'm not sure what I would include in the letter, we would help you and we will connect you so that they, being our communications team in DC, can get your story, and then we'll add the facts, the data, the figures that we have collected from our surveys and our polling to provide that additional support to your personal story, and then we will send it out. We could feature you on our blog or our social media page. Here's a couple of pictures. Here we have Small Business Majority staff and small business owners with President Obama when we were discussing immigration reform. Over here, I don't know how to pronounce this in English, but my Spanish is saying La Juana, but I know that's probably not it. But Ms. Russell, owner of Business Management Associates, discussing barriers facing minority and women entrepreneurs. And here, Jamie Del Rosario, talking about immigration reform is necessary to encourage immigrants to live the American dream. So these are just some samples. If you go to our blog, you will see more information, more stories. And whatever you read and whatever you see, if there's somebody or something or a story that you identify with, that could be you. So it's important, like I said, I know you have enough on your plate. You're raising families, taking care of yourselves, working a full-time job while you're getting your business up and running, and so on and so on and so forth, right? But if nobody speaks up for you, who will? If you don't speak up for yourself, who will, right? And as we advocate for one another, in closing out this month-long series, which is hosted in celebration of Women in Small Business Month, I definitely want to bring this to you and say if any of this interests you or any of those key areas interest you, or if there's another area that you would like to bring to our attention, please do so. And the last thing that I will share is I am available for you I'm available to meet with you at your time, location, date of your choosing. If you want to sit down and just talk with me about where you're at in your entrepreneurship journey, I'm more than happy to do so. And you can just send me an email to mzales@smallbusinessmajority.org. Zales, like the jewelry store, no relation, or I would be decked out in diamonds. msales@smallbusinessmajority.org is the best way to reach me. And we can set up a time to meet, go over where you're at right now, and I'll be more than happy to refer you to our various partners here in the St. Louis area. I wish you all much success. Thank you so much for being here.